Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the video. You might be seeing a new setting. This isn't a video game, Tyler. What is this? I don't understand what this is. Well, as you can read in the title, this is the top 5 Black Mirror episodes, in my opinion. Okay, in my humble opinion. I am, by no means an expert. I had to look up on Wikipedia who the director and, the cast was. I'm not that. But I'm a big fan of the show, and it's something I was passionate about. I recently got into the show about 4 weeks ago. I finished it last week, so I am kind of late into the game. 4 seasons into the series is when I got into it. But I'm a massive fan of the show. I got my little script here. Okay, I got my NWO tank top, too sweet me brother. I got a hat on because my hair is an absolute mess, and I'm not gonna make it for this video. I'm sorry, you guys aren't all that great. It's just how it is. Don't take it personally though. Okay, so I want to start off with an honorable mention before we get into the top 5 Black Mirror episodes, in my humble opinion. Okay, my honorable mention was 15 Million Merritts. I thought that was a fantastic episode. It stars Daniel Guai, I think I pronounced that correctly, who, of course, would later become the star of Get Out, which became just a cult classic by Jordan Peele. This was a great episode. You don't really find out why the characters, they're constantly on the bike in that episode. You don't really find out why, but it's a great twist at the end. When Daniel Guai's character ends up becoming a slave of the society, he ended up taking up the same offer that the girl took, and he ended up becoming a part of the streaming service that the people on the bikes can then see. So that was a really interesting episode. That is my honorable mention. But starting off with number 5, we have the USS Callister. All right, the USS Callister was directed by Toby Haynes, and it's starring Jesse Plemons and Kristen Milotti. Kristen Milotti, I've always been a big fan of her. She was in The Wolf of Wall Street. She was in How I Met Your Mother. That's how she really came to fame and came to prominence. This is an excellent episode. Okay, so it's kind of like a new age for video games in this episode. So Jesse plays an awkward man who's unsocial. He's almost lonely in real life, but he works for this video game company. He kind of pioneered it. Him and his friend, they started it together. But then he kind of took a back seat because his friend became the more dominant owner of the company. So he started this company, but he's really taken a back seat to this guy. So he's very unsocial. He doesn't know how to interact in a normal way. So he's created this video game where he's it's in his computer, and it's a separate world completely, and basically he's taken his coworker's DNA and he's installed it in the video game, so therefore they have become a part of the video game, and he has to he gets to come in whenever he goes home. He goes right on the game, and he controls that world. So whatever's happening in that world, he controls it. I think it was an excellent episode. It was well directed. All the cinematography was great in it. I thought it was kind of like Star Trek. It was really a lot like Star Trek, if we're being honest. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they end up getting sued for that, for the likeness of it or something. But it was so much like Star Trek, basically the game if there was TV show that people would end up making a game of, they won't want to reenact in real life, it would be Star Trek. And that actually is an available option on the PlayStation VR version. I've never tried it myself, but I've seen YouTube videos where Star Trek is an actual, where you can command the ship. I haven't seen the show, I don't know what the ship's called, I'm sorry. You can command the ship with your friends, and it's VR, like you're seeing it the first person, just as your friends are. So that's crazy. I do have some questions about this episode, USS Callister. Robert Daly is, of course, the character that Jesse Plemons plays, and I was just wondering, does he ever get out of the simulation mode? The episode ends with him being stuck in the ship, and he's unable to get back. He's trying to quit the game, go back to real life, so he can deal with Kristen Milotti in real life, probably kill her or something. But he can't get out of the simulation mode. He can't get out of the video game. He's stuck in the ship. I'm wondering, what happens to his real life body? Does he never get out? Does he just starve to death? Because that is presumably what would happen if your body's just stuck there. And then my other question was, when police discover the body when he is found dead, can they with their technology, can they track back, why didn't he come back in the game? Why would he just stay in the game and kill his real self? That makes no sense. Why would he do that? So that was my number 5 entry, USS Callister. I thought it was a fantastic episode. I just barely ranked it over 15 Million Merritts as my honorable mention. I thought both were fantastic, but USS Callister takes the cake at number 5. Alright, coming in number 4 is White Christmas. White Christmas was directed by Carl Tibbets and is starring John Hamm as Matt and Rafe Spall as Joe. So, The episode starts out at Matt is cooking Christmas dinner for Joe. They are in some kind of snowy, just like off resort. It kind of reminds me of the movie The Thing. That's what it kind of reminds me. If you've ever seen that classic. So Matt is trying to find out more about Joe. He's like, hey, we've been here 5 years. I'm making Christmas dinner. Why don't you tell me more about yourself? I know nothing about why you're here, why you took this job, which seems crazy. If you are with one other person for 5 years, boy, you better know damn near everything by 1 year about that person, because that's just crazy. But so he starts telling more. Matt starts telling Joe about his job and how he would create a software where it would make people into like a computer simulator where they become like a task force for people's homes. Like they can make toast, they can turn on the shower, they can turn on the lights when the owner gets ready to wake up and everything. And a majority episode is Matt going through. This part seems kind of irrelevant, really. I don't really see how it ties in with the end, but I still enjoyed it. Matt is like, he's doing like this online dating service type thing where he's basically a guru to picking up girls for sex. And so he's going through this, this character's eyes, and he can see everything he sees. He's telling him in his ear what to say to this girl, how to pick her up. Basically, the girl ends up poisoning him and killing him, and then he has to shut down the whole thing, and the police find out about it. That's how it kind of ties in, now that I think about it. The police find out about it, like, hey, you watched this guy die, and you didn't report it, and you kind of effectively killed him because you told him to go with that woman, and she ended up killing him. So presumably they got that woman and everything because it was caught on tape. But so in return so he can go free, they're helping him get Joe's real life character to admit to his murders that he committed on his ex-wife's father. And then of course he found out his daughter was not actually his. So basically, he put Joe in like this 5-year simulation, basically, where even though it was only a couple hours, and so Joe thinks he's been in there for 5 years, and his conscience is another version of him and admits to the murders. Therefore, because his conscience admitted to it, even though his real life version would not, he's just sitting in the cell. He's been in there a while. He's got a beard. He's been there a while. He's not confessing to the murders. So, but because his conscience did, even though he had nothing to do with it, he admitted it, and they got it on tape and everything. So I thought it was a great episode, White Christmas. It's a plot twist. I think the best Black Mirror episodes are the ones with plot twists, and this one certainly had one. So that was number 4, White Christmas, baby. All right, coming in at number 3 is White Bear. White Bear was also directed by Carl Tibbets, so I guess Carl Tibbets just loves the word white. I don't know. Is he racist? I don't know. I'm not the person to ask that. So this was starring Lenora Critchlow and Tuppence Middleton. Wow, that's quite a mouthful of names. All right, so the concept is Victoria. She wakes up. She's a light-skinned girl. She looks a mess, girl. You look a mess, girl. I don't know. You get yourself together. She's all sweaty. Her hair is messed up. She wakes up in a house. She has no idea where she is. And she steps out, and the first thing she sees is someone recording her. And she goes up to her and she's like, "Hey, first, why are you recording me? Can you help me figure out where I am, who I am? Please help." She has no idea. She's been, her memory's been wiped. And as the episode goes along, this hunter basically acts like he's gonna kill her. He's chasing her with a shotgun. He's taking shots that they're probably end up being like fake bullets or something. And all these people, just like hundreds of people, are just recording her, and she just doesn't understand why people are recording this happen instead of helping her. And she meets these two characters. They end up helping her. Guy gets killed, but then so it's just the girl and Victoria. Tuppence Howard and Victoria, they're going through a mission. She's trying to help her. It turns out, and then she gets killed and everything. Blah blah blah. By the end of it, the plot twist makes this whole episode. It turns out, that she goes through this reenactment every day. Okay. And she's a convicted murderer. She watched her boyfriend kill this little girl, and recorded it and everything. And this is one of the few episodes that doesn't have much to do with technology. Most Black Mirror episodes have a big significance on technology. The only technology in this episode is really how they wipe her memory, because that's not really a thing in modern day right now in 2018. They wipe her memory, and she starts the reenactment the same every day. So I did have a couple of questions about this. It just doesn't make sense. So if they pay guests, obviously, or guests pay to come in and watch her go through this struggle. They watched it, which is kind of sick. I mean, I don't know if that would really be a popular thing in this day and age. I think most people would find that kind of sick. You watch a convicted murderer who's she's dangerous, even though she doesn't know who she is. and B, it's just not morally right to like see her go through torture every day. I don't think that definitely wouldn't happen in this day and age. I mean, who knows though. But I did have a couple questions. It's how does she eat? Because she literally goes through this awful day where she's like dodging death at every last second, and then she comes to the realization that no, you're actually a murderer. And then they bring her back to the room, they tie her up, they set up the house the exact same way so that she has the same reaction every time. And then they just wipe her memory, and she gets knocked out, and then she wakes up the next morning. So I'm like, how does she eat? How is she surviving all these weeks of like these guests paying, while she's on trial? While she's on trial, this is what they're doing like temporarily. So I just don't understand how she eats, and like when does it end? Does it end when the trial ends? I don't know. But either way, White Bear, fantastic episode. It really like brings you to how like sick and demonic humans can be. With even though she is the criminal, and you were rooting for her the whole episode, she seemed pretty sympathetic, even though she was kind of like a whiny. She just did. She wasn't that sympathetic, but she was still the baby face. She was still the good guy in this until the reveal at her end that her and her boyfriend had actually killed a little girl. So, like I said, the best Black Mirror episodes are the ones with plot twists, and this had a big one. So that was number 3, White Bear. Alright, coming in at number 2 is The Entire History of You. This episode, I was so close to ranking at number 1. It was directed by Brian Welsh, starring Toby Kebbell and Jodie Whittaker. Alright, so Toby Kebbell plays Liam, who is a young lawyer, and Jodie Whittaker plays Fee, his wife. So, episode starts out, he's having like a conference with his bosses at his firm, and he's basically, the whole concept is every person, or most people, it's a social norm to have this grain embedded in your head, and the grain allows you to play back any memory that you had of your entire life. Unless you choose to delete a part, then it will get deleted. But most people, don't do that because you might need it for some. And basically, this is a dangerous game. If this were to ever become a real thing, I think what happened in this episode would accurately represent what would happen in real life if a grain was actually installed. So basically, Liam is just obsessed with his past. He's playing back his meeting with his bosses from his firm. He's studying their body language, and he's starting to realize that like even though it's what came out of their mouth sounded like it was like a good meeting, it turns out like from reading his body language, he obsesses over it, and he comes to the conclusion that it wasn't a good meeting, and that he doesn't know, where he's going to go from there, job-wise. So job-wise, always affects your personal life, most times. So you can tell because of this grain, and because he's analyzing everything that happens to him, he's very sensitive to everything that goes around him. He's insecure, for sure. So he comes back home, he flies home, and Fee, his wife, is at a dinner party. He meets her there. Hi, all friends, all this, things that rich folk do, rich white people do, where they're just like, oh, hi, so great to see you, even though in reality they could give a shit less. They're doing all that. The grain becomes a discussion. One of the characters, I think her name is Hamlet, or I think that's her character's name. She discusses that, she doesn't have the grain. She chose to get it taken out, but it was a risk getting it taken out because it's a risk going blind if you take the grain out, because it's just where the brain is, or where it is in the head and anything. So she was lucky to keep her eyesight and get rid of the grain so she can live life naturally. And everyone else at the table was like, I couldn't do it. I need the grain. I couldn't do it. So that plays into the ending of the episode is just the whole blindness possibility if you remove the grain. So basically, Liam is suspecting Fee of cheating on her with this guy at the dinner party who's named Jonas. And it turns out his suspicions come true. So he goes through all these lengths. He's analyzing the way she looks at him, the way she talks at him, the way she laughs at the things he says. He's analyzing everything. Everything a typical insecure boyfriend would do. And it turns out his suspicions are true, though. So you almost don't know whose side you're on. I've read it on Reddit threads where some people are on Fee's side because he was crazy and she made a mistake, but he didn't need to know because they could have just been happy. But a lot of people are like, hey, he was true. She was cheating. Okay, he didn't cheat. She was the one cheating, and the baby's not even his. Okay, boom, plot twist. So yeah, that was great symmetry, by the way, when they showed the baby's eyes, they were blue, and then they showed Jonas's eyes, which are blue, and of course Liam's eyes, were green, more like, or hazel. Brown, something like that. So, man, this is a great episode. I almost ranked this number 1. I love this episode. Just the whole, just the weirdness of like how they were having sex. But of course, when you use the grain, your eyes go in like a demonic phase, like they're like blue and faded out, as if like it's like a ghost movie or something. So this was so good because They were having sex, but they were playing back the memory. They were both playing back the memory of the first time they had sex because it's not good enough in its current incarnation. The only way for them to like feel satisfied sexually is to go back to their very first experience, which as most people know, the first time you have sex with somebody, that's usually the best time ever because it's new, it's fresh. That's why people cheat on people, is because they need something new and fresh, and it keeps them satisfied. So that was just a crazy looking scene visually, and it represented a lot of current modern age civilization and relationships. So a couple questions here. He ends up going to Jonas's house. He beats his ass because he finds out that she did have a fling with him, but then she lies about that and said, "Oh, okay, the fling was actually, it was actually 3 weeks rather than 1 week. I'm sorry, I lied about it. It was 2 more weeks. Okay, it was actually a couple months. I'm sorry, I lied about that. Oh, it turns out it was actually like a year ago when the baby was conceived. Wow, that's ultimately. So you're left with the theory, Liam's going through his house. He's going through his house. Everything's empty, but he's being reminded of his old memories of when they were happy. And that to me tells the message they were trying to convey is, would he have just been happier living a lie and thinking that the child was his, and then knowing that Fee had never cheated on him? But with the grain, he found out that information. It tore apart his marriage. It tore apart his family. It possibly even killed Fee and the baby. That's left up to complete. After she is found guilty of this, in their bedroom, nothing is shown of Fee and the child ever again in the episode. It's just Liam walking through his house. He's just so depressed. He can't believe what's happened. He doesn't know who he is anymore. He goes to the bathroom. He cuts out the grain in his head. He's bleeding a lot. And then all these memories spike to his memory, and it just goes black. And the episode ends. And so to me, that shows that he went blind by taking out the grain, because that is what, they wouldn't put that in at the dinner table scene for no reason. The character, the friend did say that was a possibility. If you are to remove the grain, especially yourself and not surgically, you're likely to lose your eyesight. So that's seemingly what happened. We don't know what happened to the family. We don't know what happened to Jonas. Lots of questions there. Just a great episode. So number 2, the entire history of you. Alright, coming in number 1. Drum roll, please. Okay, it's Shut Up and Dance. Shut Up and Dance. Man, I love this episode. Shut Up and Dance was directed by James Watkins, and it was starring Alex Lothar as Kenny and Jerome Flynn from Game of Thrones as Hector. So, this episode, I'll skip the kind of the first 10 minutes because it's more just a lead up as to like, it doesn't really have much to do with the plot twist at the end and the story. Basically, Kenny is, masturbating to porn, as we all do. I mean, let's face it, it's not that bad. He's masturbating to porn, but someone hacks his computer, hacks his webcam, says, "We just saw what you did. We will release the video of you doing this unless you follow what we say." And Kenny's, he instantly just goes, his safe space of his room just becomes a prison cell. Okay, he's so, his paranoia is through the roof. Okay, he doesn't know what to do. He's texting back with the hacker. He ends up following these tasks, and you're like, this goes to show, and because of the twist at the end, this goes to show that it's not the act itself, it's the shame that comes with the act. Because everyone does it, everyone knows that everyone does it at some point in their life, but it's the act itself. But of course, that comes to the twist that it wasn't actual real porn. Not everybody does that. Let's get that out the way right now. So he's going through all these tasks with Hector. He did, life danger. You have to rob a bank. He has to deliver a cake for some reason. They have to rob a bank, and they determine that Hector will drive and Kenny will go in with the gun. And he is just so nervous. This is like the most nervous bank robbery you've ever seen in TV or movies. He pissed his pants. He's shaking constantly with the gun in his hands. And the teller at the bank, eventually is talking to him like a small child. He's talking like, "Hey, is it okay if I hand the bag of money over to you now?" He's like, "Yes. Yes." And he takes the money. Him and Hector drive away. They have to keep performing these tasks. They're barely cutting all these tasks because the person on texting them is saying, "Hey, you gotta do it in 30 minutes," and they're cutting it close by like 29. So basically, what comes to an end is the hacker says he will not release the videos, if all this comes to it. But there's so many other multiple characters that this has happened, like, it's like a circle of life, man. It's like 5 different characters that are involved in this, the main 2 being Kenny and Hector. Basically, it comes to the end where Kenny has to deliver the money to a spot. When he gets to the spot, he finds another man, and this man has a drone. And he says, "I have to put this drone up." And the drone goes up in the air, and it's recording him. And so you're wondering, who is this being broadcast to? Is this just being broadcast to the hacker, or is this some kind of like sick internet streaming thing of maybe people just want to watch the fight to the death? And the man says we have to fight to the death and whoever wins will not have their video leaked or something like that. And if they don't comply, both videos will be leaked. So you got to do it. And it turns out you're like, wow, these guys are really fighting over a masturbation porn video. And then it comes to realization. The other man says, he's like, yeah, have you done the same thing as me? And Kenny's just quiet. And then the man says, how young were they? And that line, and I've read this on YouTube comments and Reddit threads, that line, how young were they? That hit people because, again, this is just like White Bear, where you were cheering for this guy the entire episode, and then you find out that it's child pornography. And that goes through the roof. Kenny has instantly become a bad guy. You regret cheering for him the entire episode. And this man and him fight to the death. It is not shown on camera. The next scene is he's bloody. Kenny somehow won. This guy that was my one gripe with this episode. How did he win? I have no idea how he won this. The guy was like almost twice his size, and he was an adult male. Kenny looks like he'd never been to fight in his life, but he won this fight. He was bloodied. He was bruised, and then his mom calls him. His mom calls him and say, "Jesus, Kenny, there's a video of you masturbating to porn. They're saying it's children, Kenny. Tell me it's not true, Kenny." And he just puts the phone down and hangs up. And then it cuts over to Hector. And he comes home, and Hector's wife has found out that he ordered a prostitute. All these things that the hacker said he wasn't going to release, and also the side characters of the woman who was a CEO of a company and had some racist emails or something, and the hacker said he would release the emails. That got released, even though she did the task. The black guy who I don't know what the black guy did. I forget what he did. He cheated on his wife or something. She finds out and she starts yelling at him like, you're cheating on me, blah, blah. You know how they. So you know how that goes. And so it turns out the troll, and he texts like a little troll face. I'll put it in right here. He texts back the troll face to all these people, and he released everything anyways, even though everyone did what they told him to do. And he released the videos anyways, and I'm just, there's definitely a big message behind that. It's more about the shame than the act itself. And this was a great episode, man. Shut up and actually, you know what's weird about this episode? I was playing music while I was watching a review of this episode, because I like to watch Harry's Moving Castle. Shout out to Harry's Moving Castle. He reviews all the Black Mirror episodes. He's fantastic. Go check him out if you like Black Mirror. Harry's Moving Castle. I was watching his review video, and then I was listening to Pandora, and as I'm watching his review video, Shut Up and Dance, the song comes on. I was like, wow. This is weird. So, this was my favorite episode, man. This was, I'm wondering, one of my big questions was, how did Kenny kill the guy twice his size? And why do you think the troll released the information? Why do you think he released the information, even though they did the task he told him to do? But I thought this episode was fantastic. Man, I gave it like a 9 out of 10. This is my favorite episode of Black Mirror. I've seen every episode so far. I'm really waiting for season 5. Number 1, Shut Up and Dance. Alright guys, that is going to be the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed this. I don't know if it was too long or not. I'm going to cut out some bits and pieces. This is my first time ever trying something like this. I might end up continue talking about movie reviews, TV shows, wrestling. I'm a big wrestling fan, of course, so I might end up doing different things, but I'm never going to leave video games. I'm always going to be uploading that. Unless something takes off, then, I'm going to go where the money goes, you know what I'm saying? But give it a like if you liked it. Give it a thumbs down if you didn't. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share if you dare. Peace from the Southeast.